Hi there, and welcome to another video of Made with Cables. My name's Mark, my handle on the forums is Andro, and today I'll be giving you an introduction to more cool post-processing tricks that you can use inside of cables. So the goal today is to get a very simple scene and to use a couple of established techniques to make it look a lot better, flashier and snazzier. So I'm going to just make some basic spheres and then use some techniques to just make it look a lot better. So let's get started. First of all, I'm going to make a render to texture op, and then I'm going to make a full screen rectangle. The texture output goes in here. And now I'm going to get a matte cap material. Then I'm going to get a random cluster up because I want to generate a lot of spheres. And then I'm going to get a sphere mesh. So right now we're inside of everything. So I'm going to put the size down to 1.4. And I'm going to put the radius of the sphere on say 0.2. Great. So now we've got something on the screen. Few jaggy edges, so I'm going to click render to texture and I'm going to turn anti-aliasing on. Now it becomes smoother. So first of all, I want to make the spheres look a little bit cooler. So let's go to texture and now let's grab a matte cap material. So click on texture, click on file, click on library. I'm going to scroll down and I'm going to get, where did it go? Here, genetic view aqua. Great. So this is nice, but a little bit ordinary. I want to go a bit more for that generative art look. So you know what? Let's move this over here. And before that, let's make an interesting material. So I'm going to go to image compose. And then I'm going to grab a stripes 2 op. And the output from this, I'm going to plug into the diffuse. Great. So this color is coming from the stripes 2 op. So I'm going to click the color picker. I'm just going to put it on white for now. It's already looking a little bit more stylish. So I'm just going to put the width on 0.75, actually the other way, 0.25. And I'm going to grab another stripes up and I'm going to put that here. I'm going to rotate it 0.25. And as you can see, I can blend between the two. So I'm going to just pick a blend mode. Let's look for something that's pretty nice. This one, this is pretty cool. So far so good. I've now got this like little generative artistic material on my sphere. So let's get started. So one of the first tricks we're going to use is ambient occlusion. So I'm not going to go in depth with every effect today. That's why we have Google, but I'll explain it in brief. Ambient occlusion is when two surfaces, two edges are close together and it becomes a little bit darker. So if you look in the room around you, you can see this if you look into the corners, that will be a little bit darker than the rest. So we can do this inside the cables. So I'm going to grab an image compose op. And with this, I'm going to make my final render chain. So let's call this IC render chain. This is where everything's going to come together. So let's grab the draw image up. And first of all, I'm just going to get the default texture like we just had. And now I'm going to go under here and I'm going to grab an SSAO2 op, screen space ambient occlusion. I'm going to click that. It expects here a depth texture. We get this from render to texture. So I'm going to plug that in here. And you can instantly see something's happened with the image. I mean, if I press D here now, we can bypass it. So it just looks like things have become darker on some like circular edges here. So I'm just going to put the radius on 1. I'm going to put the clamp down a little bit. I'm going to put the samples on 3 because I want it to be a little bit heavy. And actually, let's just turn this down. I'm going to really exaggerate it so you guys can just see what's happening. There we go. So as you can see, we've got this darkened edge here now. It's a very subtle effect. So if we're going to press D, without it, everything is just very bright and flat. There's no depth. If we're going to click here and press D again, we get this like kind of fake depth. So I'm going to just leave it like this. It's a bit over the top because normally it's used in a much more subtle manner. But I'm going to do this today with all the effects. I'm going to exaggerate them so you can see what's happening in this small window. So great. In 1 minute, we've got ambient occlusion. So the next effect we want to use is depth of field. So let's go over here, make an image compose, and then we're going to grab the op depth texture focus. So this is just like a way to simulate a camera lens, making some parts of an image sharp and the parts that aren't in focus are going to become blurry. So I'm going to grab depth texture, I'm going to plug it in here, and just so you guys can see what's going on, I'll grab this, plug it in there. So the far plane's too much, I'll put it on 5. There we go. So now I can use center to move the center part, the focus point. So the easy way to say this is the brighter a pixel is, the more blurry it's going to become. So if we want the front to be sharp, it's got to be dark. And if we want the back to be blurry, then they've got to be white. So this would make this part sharp, this part blurry. So let's just blur this and put it on, say, 2. Now, blurs are a little bit expensive, so I'm going to turn off use viewport size, and I'm going to just put it on 512 by 512. So far so good. Let's get the original composition back. So we're now going to go down here, and we're going to add a draw image. Sorry, we're going to add a blur. As you can see, it blurs everything. So now we're going to get the output from this, and we're going to plug it in there. And this is way too much because it's on 10. So I'll put it on 3. And all of a sudden, you can see we've now got this depth of field effect. So we're going to have to just tweak this a little bit to make it kind of cooler. So I'm going to go here to center. I'm going to move it back a little bit, and I'm going to increase the width and move the center back. It's just something you've got to tweak with, basically depth of field. So it's a very subtle effect now, but it works. It adds this kind of like realism to the image. So far so good. We've got this working. So now we're going to add a kind of glow, a kind of bloom. So let me just label this for a minute so you guys can see what's going on. DI for draw image, and I'm going to call this depth of field. And this one I'm going to call DI original. So as you can see, we're just chaining everything together here. So now I'm going to go over here and I'm going to grab an image compose. And then I'm going to grab a draw image. And now I'm going to add a luma key. So the easy way to explain what a luma key does is it only allows pixels to go through if they've got a brightness that they're above a certain threshold. So I grab the texture output, plug it in here, and I click luma key, and now I push the threshold up. And as you can see, only the brighter parts of the image are going through. So this is pretty cool. So now I want to add this glow. So I'm going to grab a blur. Way too much. So I'll just put it on, say, 4. There we go. So now I need to put this back into the image. So I go over here and I say draw image. And let me grab the original image back. And I'm going to get that luma keyed blur, our glow, and I'm going to put it here. And we've got to change the blend mode. So I'm going to put it on screen. And as you can see, we've now got these brighter patches here. To see the difference, we can turn this on, off. It's very subtle, but once again, it's adding something to the image. It's a little bit more than I'd normally have, but I just want to exaggerate it so you guys can see what's happening there. So now we've added this bloom, let's say DI bloom. So far so good. This is going pretty cool. It's already looking a lot better. Click here, press D. This is with no post-processing. Press D again. This is with, it's just adding more artistic flair to the image. So now I'm going to go here and I'm going to type in noise. I want to add some kind of like film grain. So I'm going to turn off animated. I'm going to turn down the amount, and I actually want to put the mode on add. I want to make the image just a little bit brighter. Now, noise, you add too much, it looks terrible. So I'm just cranking it up so you guys can see it now. I'd normally put this on, say, even just like 0.1. It's got to be really subtle because no image is perfect. I can already see it here still. It's a little bit too much. I'm going to put them, say, 0.07. It's a bit much, but it's cool. It gets the point across. So that's like a rough, easy, cheap film grain. So I'm now going to add the last op. And there's way more ops to do this kind of stuff. Gamma correction. So I'm not going to go into an explanation about gamma correction. You can Google this. basically I'm just going to show you just now how to add a bit of oomph to your image. So I'm going to pre-multiply the texture with, like, say 1.2, and I'm going to put this on, say 0.76. And now the whole image just becomes darker, richer. It just seems to pop more. So I'll click here again, press D. I'm liking the way this is going. So the last thing, which I find a little bit boring, is the standard black background. A background can do so much to change an image. So I'm going to go here and I'm going to add a clear color op. So I've got to be careful with this because too much and I'll trigger the bloom. Let's grab this kind of color here and let's just add this. Now, as you can see, the noise is now not working in a way that I'd like. So I don't add, I'm going to subtract. That's more like it, and I still think it's a bit too much. So I can shake it, disconnect it, and I could put it after the gamma correction. You can just change this stuff however you see fit. So there we go. And you know what? One last trick, because I really like doing things in real time. Cables, can't help it. Got to throw this one in. So let's grab a timer 2, put it on 0.1, and let's add it to the offset stripes. And let's put this actually on 0.05. And let's add it over here as well. And all of a sudden, we've got this kind of like animated patch where everything's moving. We've got basic post-processing. And in around 10 minutes, we've managed to get a bunch of spheres and make it look really way better than the thing that we started with. And the sky's the limit. You can tweak this stuff how you see fit. Let's just put this a little bit bigger so we can see this. Yeah, wow, look at that. That's really not bad. To say that we just started out with a couple of simple spheres. This is a pretty cool end result. So this was the end of this tutorial. I hope you've enjoyed it. If you have any questions or comments, please feel free to leave them under the video below or to post them on the forum. Thanks for your time. Bye.